Have you ever noticed how people talk about reaching $20,000 like it's the holy grail of financial security? But here's the kicker. Hitting that milestone isn't just a secure your future move. It's like stepping into a whole new universe where everything, and I mean everything, changes. I've seen it happen with my buddy Tom. Months ago, we were both having coffee when he casually mentioned he'd hit $20,000 in his savings. I figured he'd say something about relaxing and not worrying about bills, right? Instead, he goes, "Man, it feels like my whole life just flipped a switch." Honestly, I thought he was being a bit dramatic, but here's the thing. He wasn't wrong. When people cross that $20,000 line, it doesn't just pad their bank accounts, it shifts their entire outlook on life. I've noticed it with others too. It's like suddenly doors that were once locked are now wide open. It used to drive me crazy trying to figure out why a simple number could spark such a seismic shift. So, why does hitting $20,000 turn everything upside down? That's exactly what we're diving into today. My name's Ben, and I've been on both sides of that financial fence. I've seen firsthand how those 5 digits do more than just add zeros to your account. They redefine your possibilities in your life. Today, I'm going to show you why reaching $20,000 isn't just a financial milestone. It's a game changer that flips the script on your world. Whether it's opportunities you never considered, relationships that take on new dynamics, or a newfound confidence you didn't know you were capable of, there's so much more to this story. Stick around. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because you won't want to miss how these changes can be the stepping stones to even greater achievements. Trust me, once you understand the power of this milestone, you'll see the world and your place in it differently. Let's dive into this fascinating journey of change and discovery that's waiting just on the other side of $20,000. Which brings us to our first reason why hitting the $20,000 mark turns your world upside down. Let me tell you about something I've noticed over the years. It was back in the day when I was juggling 2 jobs, barely scraping by, and feeling like I was on a never-ending treadmill. Then, one day, I met this guy named Leo at a networking event. Leo was one of those rare people who exuded a quiet sort of confidence, the kind that makes you think, "What's your secret?" Leo told me he had just hit $20,000 in savings, and it completely changed his outlook on life. Now, here's the kicker. Leo didn't come from money. He wasn't some financial wizard with Wall Street secrets. He was just a regular guy who'd been doing warehouse work, same as me. So what's the catch? I asked him outright. How does $20,000 make such a difference? Leo grinned and said, "It's not about the money, Ben. It's about the mindset shift." Suddenly, I had one of those aha moments, like a light bulb flickering to life. Leo explained that before hitting that milestone, every dollar felt like a lifeline. He was always in survival mode, but once he saved $20,000, he switched from merely surviving to exploring opportunities. Here's what I've noticed over and over. Hitting that $20,000 mark creates a buffer that changes how you see the world. Leo, for instance, started to think of money as a tool for growth rather than just a way to cover expenses. With that cushion, he no longer hesitated to explore interests he'd shelved for years, like starting a small side business selling handmade leather goods online. And this is where it gets interesting. The extra $20,000 meant he could afford to take calculated risks. He was free to invest in himself without the anxiety of falling into financial ruin. Leo didn't become a millionaire overnight, but he did open a whole new chapter of possibilities for himself. This is where not overthinking and being open to taking smart risks becomes a strange advantage. In real life, this might look like finally pursuing that online course you've been eyeing, or upgrading your skills with a workshop, or even just having the freedom to take a lower-paying job that fulfills you more. With $20,000 acting as your safety net, you're no longer shackled to choices that only ensure survival. Instead, you're empowered to make decisions that aim at growth and happiness. Let me repeat that because it's important. Hitting $20,000 doesn't just cushion you against the financial bumps in life. It opens up a new realm where you can start making decisions that truly align with what you want out of life. Here's the thing that most of us don't want to admit until we've been there. It's not the money that changes everything. It's what the money allows us to see and do that flips the script. And this mindset shift is just the opening act. There's so much more that changes once you hit that financial milestone. But before we get to that, let's delve into another significant shift: how your newfound status transforms your social circle and the conversations that fill your life. So here's where things get really interesting. And it's not just about your mind making the switch from survival to opportunity. Your social circle goes through a kind of transformation that you might not see coming. Let me tell you about my friend Jake, who hit the $20,000 mark and suddenly found himself in a whole new world. Jake used to be the kind of guy who'd always talk about how tight money was. You know, the typical, I can't afford to go out this weekend kind of conversations. We all have at least one friend like that, right? Anyway, once Jake hit that $20,000 milestone, it was like a switch flipped. Our usual chats about bills and budgeting morphed into discussions about which country he wanted to visit next or the latest side hustle he was considering. Honestly, it was a little jarring at first. I remember thinking, who are you? And what have you done with my friend? But you know what? It was refreshing. We were no longer stuck in a loop of financial complaints. Instead, we were exploring ideas and dreaming bigger. And here's the thing: when your conversations start to change, so do your friendships. I noticed this myself. In my case, when I first crossed that $20,000 line, I didn't immediately start talking about grand travel plans or business ideas. Nope. I was still stuck in my stay safe mode, discussing nothing but gas prices and rent. Meanwhile, Jake was over there imagining life possibilities, and his excitement was contagious. This pattern of social evolution is everywhere. When money isn't the main stressor, people naturally move towards growth-oriented conversations. It's like hitting that financial milestone gives you a pass to dream and scheme about the future rather than just survive the present. While some folks are busy crunching numbers and staying in their financial lanes, others, like Jake, are already out there living a more expansive life. And this is where it gets a bit infuriating, because while Jake was embracing this new chapter, I was still hesitating, trapped in my own cycle of cautiousness. What I realized, though, is that this isn't just about the money, it's about the mindset shift that comes with it. So, what happens at $20,000? Your social circle evolves, your conversations get richer, and your interactions become infused with possibility. It's like moving from black and white TV to full-blown Technicolor. Everything feels more vibrant, more alive. I like to call this phenomenon conversation liberation. When your financial stress eases, your mind becomes free to wander to more inspiring places. And trust me, once you experience this shift, there's no going back. The possibilities that open up are not just exciting, they're genuinely transformative. Here's what I learned. At $20,000, you're not just financially freer, you're socially freer too. And that's a change that can be priceless. But let's not stop there, because there's still more to this transformation. What about the way you perceive yourself? Let's dive into that next. Here's something I've noticed over and over again. After hitting that $20,000 mark, your self-perception undergoes a radical shift. It's as if you've pressed a secret button, activating a new level of confidence. I remember talking to my friend Michelle about this. She's a graphic designer who for years struggled with imposter syndrome. But after she hit her $20,000 savings milestone, everything changed. Michelle told me how she started feeling like a legitimate player in her field. Before this, she would hesitate to charge what she truly deserved, often second-guessing her own worth. But after her financial confidence grew, so did her professional confidence. It wasn't just the money in her bank account. It was like she had received a personal endorsement from herself that she was indeed capable and deserving. So, what does this mean practically? Let me break it down. When Michelle boosted her rates, clients didn't balk. In fact, they respected her more for valuing her work at what it was truly worth. Here's the kicker. She started getting more referrals because people viewed her as a top-tier designer. It was like a positive feedback loop. The more confidence she displayed, the more work she got, and the more money she earned. It's like meeting a future business partner at a random coffee shop. The confidence shift changes your demeanor, your handshake, even the way you carry a conversation. Suddenly, opportunities seem to find you and not the other way around. And this isn't some kind of mystical law of attraction. It's real-world dynamics. People are naturally drawn to confidence. It broadcasts competence and reliability. Contrast this with the opposite approach. Some of the smartest people I know remain stuck in their old patterns because they assume their work alone will speak for them. They forget that perception is often just as crucial as reality. They might have brilliant ideas, but without the confidence to advocate for themselves, those ideas stay tucked away in notebooks and journals. I used to think that if you did excellent work, recognition and opportunities would naturally follow. But I realized pretty quickly that the world doesn't always work that way. It's not just about what you know, but how you present what you know. When you hit $20,000, that financial confidence translates directly into personal confidence. It's like you've unlocked a new chapter in your life, one where you stop asking for permission and start making declarations. So, if you're wondering why everything changes after reaching this milestone, think back to how you perceive yourself. It's not just that you've saved money, it's that you've proven to yourself you can set and achieve significant goals. And that, my friend, changes the entire game. It's not just about the dollars. It's about evolving into someone who knows they're capable of even more. And trust me, once you taste that kind of confidence, you'll be hungry for what's next. Our fourth reason gets right to the heart of why that $20,000 milestone can be both a blessing and a potential pitfall. Here's the thing. As exhilarating as it is to say, I've got $20,000 saved up, it can also become a bit of a trap psychologically. Think about it. If you've been known as the responsible saver in your circle, the person who's good with money, there's a certain pressure that comes with it. That the fear of making a wrong move isn't just about messing up your finances. It's about potentially shattering an identity you've carefully constructed. I know a guy named Tom who was always lauded for his prudent financial decisions. So when he hit $20,000, everyone expected him to continue playing it safe. But deep down, Tom felt stuck. Any risky venture seemed terrifying, not because of the financial implications, but because of what it would mean to his reputation. If he failed, it wasn't just a hit to his bank account. It was like proof that he wasn't the financially savvy guy everyone thought he was. Meanwhile, there's Kelly, who was never pegged as the financial genius. Kelly's journey to $20,000 was a bit more, let's say, haphazard, but that was her advantage. Since her self-worth wasn't tied to being a financial guru, she felt free to explore opportunities without fearing what others would think. She didn't have that pressure weighing her down, which meant when she did take a risk, the only person she needed to prove anything to was herself. This brings us to a powerful framework I like to call the let them mentality. It's liberating. Instead of tying yourself in knots over how others might perceive your financial decisions, you allow them to draw their own conclusions. Let them think what they will. It's about unchaining your identity from your bank statement and focusing on what genuinely excites you. Take the pet rock phenomenon, for instance. By all accounts, it seemed like the dumbest idea in the world, selling a rock as a pet. But it was precisely because the creator didn't care about looking foolish that it succeeded spectacularly. It's a reminder that sometimes the most absurd or risky ventures, when untethered from the fear of judgment, can strike gold. Here's the beautiful irony. While those who've been labeled as financially astute are busy worrying about maintaining that image, others, unburdened by such labels, are off experimenting with ideas that could redefine success. The pattern here is obvious once you see it. When you're not locked in a box of expectations, $20,000 becomes a tool for genuine exploration, rather than just a marker of how good you are with money. This connects directly to our fifth and final reason. At $20,000, you're suddenly paying attention to what truly matters. While others might be chasing the next shiny object or the allure of prestige, you're here, laser focused on the practical implications of your newfound financial freedom. It's like being in a different league. Let me tell you about Tim, who found himself at a crossroads. Tim had two choices after high school: follow the crowd to an expensive college or pursue a skill in high demand. He chose to learn plumbing while his peers opted for college, lured by the promise of prestige that came with a degree. Fast forward 10 years, Tim owns a successful plumbing business, free from the chains of student debt. His friends, meanwhile, are still hacking away at their loans, trying to climb the corporate ladder. The math isn't even close when you factor in what they owe versus what he's earned. Now imagine you're 18 years old, standing in Tim's shoes. On one hand, you have the promise of a prestigious university that comes with a hefty price tag. On the other, a technical skill that people will always need. Less glamorous but sure-footed. 20 years later, it's often the person who took the practical route who finds themselves in better financial shape. That's not to say prestige doesn't have its perks, but when you're obsessing over appearances, it can cost you more than you think. I know another guy, Steve, who got caught in this very trap. Steve's a brilliant software developer who once turned down a lucrative startup gig because it didn't have the cachet of the well-known tech giant that offered him a job. He found himself slogging through corporate bureaucracy while the startup grew exponentially, eventually going public. Meanwhile, his friends who joined the startup earlier are now living comfortably, having cashed in on stock options. Steve realized too late that he was too busy trying to impress others, and ironically got left behind. Here's the real kicker. Those average folks like Tim and Steve's friends aren't burdened by external validation. They're not worried about impressing anyone at cocktail parties. They're too busy depositing checks and building wealth. And this is the crucial difference. Those who reach the $20,000 mark and beyond focus on what truly works, not on meeting others' expectations. They're playing a completely different game. One where the scoreboard isn't how impressive your title is, but how smartly you leverage your assets. They understand that it's not about looking smart, but being smart with their choices. It's unexpected, it's counterintuitive, but it's the reality for those who break away from chasing prestige and instead chase practical success. And the best part, they're happier because of it. Here's what's really wild about all this. Hitting that $20,000 mark reshapes more than just your financial status. It's like a catalyst for transforming every other part of your life. You see, the traits that genuinely make people successful aren't some elaborate secret recipe. It's about persistence, emotional intelligence, and a willingness to take risks. Not to mention, it's about the courage to redefine what success looks like for you personally. But here's the catch. Many of us have been taught to chase external validation, thinking that prestige equals success. This often leaves us following a roadmap drawn by someone else. Those who don't have that pressure, they're free to experiment, learn, and adapt, traits that really give them the edge. The liberating truth is that success doesn't require you to be some sort of genius prodigy. It's available to everyone, regardless of where you start. You don't need to be born with extraordinary talents or connections. You just need to develop the right habits. That's why once you're past that $20,000 milestone, it's crucial to start taking action instead of getting bogged down by analysis paralysis. Dive into building relationships and learning from every mistake, no matter how silly they might seem. So maybe it's time to embrace being a little average and start getting rich in the ways that matter most. Remember, $20,000 isn't just a number. It's the door to a world of change, and that change, it can be priceless.